Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm really happy to see you. So, we got a weird video today. Just gonna say that outright. Okay, so if you're really interested in moving forward in scales, in advanced harmony, things like that, and really spicing up the way you solo and the way you think about music and music theory, this video is for you. So stay tuned, you're gonna learn a lot. I've always thought of, ever since I started learning music theory, it was things like, what happens when you combine scales, or what happens when you combine chords, okay? And these are concepts that are relatively well known in music theory, just not really well known for guitar players, right? Because we tend to stick to the same mold here. But I am the guy that is going to push you out of that barrier, so make sure you subscribe and make sure you check out some of my other videos. But anyways, the topic in question is combining scales. When I mean combining scales, I mean taking one scale and then another scale, putting them together, and kind of figuring out a brand new scale. Think of it like you're taking two different scales, picking the best sort of patterns on the fretboard as well as the best notes that make the most sense with it, because we're going to pick scales that have some common tones, okay, and common shapes. And we're going to basically make a new scale out of it, and we're not going to use the traditional 7-tone system. I'll show you what I mean by this, because it's going to be a really good exercise for you to start expanding your horizons on the fretboard, okay? Let me explain. So what I've done is I've put together two scales, the harmonic minor scale and the blues scale. Those are some of my favorite scales. I've put them together. I'll show you some of the scales that I've come up with and figured out and put into a scale identifier that I found on the internet, and I'll show you what it looks like and what it sounds like. So before we get into things, let's make sure that we know these two scales. So we're going to start with A harmonic minor, A blues. Alright, so those are the two scales that we're going to use for today. The best way to start with these scales is to make sure that we adapt the most unique characteristics of each scale. When I mean unique, I mean, what do people think of when they hear the harmonic minor scale? It's the raised seventh, right? Because normal minor sounds like this. Harmonic minor has the raised seventh, so G sharp. Okay, if we think of the most unique characteristics of the blues scale, usually people go with the chromatic line, right? So I would say that those are probably the most unique characteristics. So we definitely want to adapt those and keep those with whatever shape we're going to do, okay? We're going to first look at 3 different scale shapes that I came up with when I combined these two scales, and I want you to pick whichever one is your favorite. So here's shape number 1. Pretty easy shape, right? Okay, all you're going to do is play the A to C, then the chromatic run from D to F, or I'm sorry, D to E, D sharp and E, and then G sharp. And the thing that I like about this is when you go to the raised note and then play the A, your next note is technically C, so you get this nice like Phrygian dominant sound. The second shape, all we're going to do is we're going to add the second scale degree from harmonic minor. Something like that, right? So the first scale shape was 6 notes total, okay? So that would be a hexatonic scale. The second shape is a full 7-note scale, so you're free to use that one too. The third shape is one that I really want you to hear, so let's check it out. So out of all 3 shapes, the third one is one with 8 notes. That means the 9th note is technically your 1. that is your octave. What's happening in this is we have the 2 and we also have the 6. Okay, so the last one we only had the 2, we didn't have the 6. So now when you play it, you have A, B, C, D, D sharp, E, and F, and then G sharp. Okay, and it's a very cool sounding scale. I personally like this one the best, but obviously you can pick whichever one you like. But the weird part is this. When we put this scale into a chord identifier, it comes up as this thing called the A Algerian scale. Knowing this, we are right to call the E flat D sharp for the moment, so that's totally cool. And we can get into some really interesting music theory with the triads that come of this. This is what's going to really blow your mind. So these chords obviously sound really weird, right? But what would happen if we took those chords and we made them into 7th chords? Let's check it out. Your eyes are not fooling you. Yes. Every single triad, when added with a 7th, creates a dominant 7 of either F7 or E7 in a specific inversion, okay? Which is so strange and so bizarre. So why does this actually work? Well, when we use enharmonics, like the D sharp can be called E flat and things like that, we can kind of make sense of the actual inversions, right? Because at this point, regular music theory doesn't even apply. So I always tell my students this. When you change the notes in a scale, that means that all the chords and all the chord extensions will wound up changing. Something as simple as going from natural minor to harmonic minor will absolutely change. Like, for example, when you use harmonic minor, the 5 becomes dominant and the 7 becomes diminished and the 3 technically becomes augmented. So when we took a harmonic minor scale and then a blues scale and use this, we have created one of the weirdest set of chords, right? You can use this in harmonic minor of A harmonic minor, and that would be totally fine. It's just a little weird that we have that E flat in there. You could all do something like E Phrygian dominant, because you do have this as your raised note right there. So the reason of this whole chaos is this. Number one, you have new possibilities of combining 2 scales together and coming up with new shapes like the ones that I showed you. Number two, you now have new chord progressions that you can play around with when you start combining these 2 shapes. Number 3, you've understood a ton of music theory that will help you kind of adapt that scale to triad to 7th chord mindsets. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was really fun for me to kind of go through this scale and these chord progressions and stuff. And if you have any questions, drop them below, and I'll see you in the next video.